drinking at the moment in November 2015. Dandelion, nettles, spruce, wild sea purslane. I like to have 2 jugs handy. They don't have to be both Vitamix jugs or blended jugs. It's good if they're the same size. I happen to have 2 Vitamix jugs, so I'm using 2 2-litre ones. I've got my famous chinois, which is a posh French, very fine sieve. I'll get your smoothie extra smooth. So what I do each day is I had a litre of spring water here in the fridge. So it's a nice big handful of dandelions. Next up we have some wonderful nettles, and I could well sting myself. Oh, the sting is happening, but you know, I've learnt to love nettle stings. Purslanes, as you can see here, tend to be succulent, juicy little leaves, a bit like a cactus, like squidgy, chewy. So all the purslane appear to have this wonderful nutrient in it called eicosapentaenoic acid, which is the ultimate form, one of the ultimate forms of healthy omega-3 essential fatty acids. See, we've got some wonderful spruce. Spruce tends to have this more bluish color. Just either shove it in whole, or I could snip off. Then very similar to the spruce, we've got the Douglas fir, Scots pine, much longer needles, beautiful needles. That's the parts that will turn into the pollen next year. Again, we can blend the whole thing with the stalks. If you're starting out blending pine trees, Christmas trees, or anything unusual that you've never tried before, it would be a lot more sensible to try at most 5 needles that size, and 5 needles from each of these trees to see how your body responds. Obviously there's so much life force and nutrition in these wild herbs. If you're not used to them, they might cause a cleansing response from your body, and they're going to be very volatile in their potency. So always start very small, see how your body acclimatizes to it, and then go from there. Some wonderful, picked in the UK, it's often known as lava bread in the UK, or lava, or lava. Of course, in Japanese it's famous as being nori, what we wrap sushi and things like that in. Big pinch, it's more like a slightly heaped tablespoon of fresh sea salt. That's unprocessed sea salt, which is essentially a tincture I've made with local herbs, including these herbs here. Done an alcohol extraction, as well as many wonderful herbs like reishi from the UK, chaga from the UK and Lithuania, things like ginseng. So I put a shot of that in there, and that helps extract all of that goodness from this nutrition, as well as the fact that it's already extracted all these wonderful herbs. This is camu berry powder. Look at this forest. So I've got half a cup of milk thistle seeds in here. Of course, milk thistle, as you know, famous as a brilliant liver tonic. And another half a cup of wonderful whole organic, wow, a little bit more, hemp seeds with their shells on. The thing is, the good fats and the wonderful gritty shells of the hemp seed and the milk thistle are going to help break down and release a lot of the cellulose and nutrition within the cellulose of the herbs. And now I'm going to strain this with a very fine sieve, the chinois. of minerals and phytonutrients, the best free compost. Let's go. And what better to go with pine and some wonderful pine nuts or cedar nuts. Pine pollen, this is from the great hybrid herbs here. I do some pine pollen. So for iced tea and myself, about 2 tablespoons. That's giving us a ton of protein and a ton of really healthy hormone building food. Pine pollen being the most androgenic substance on earth, so balancing all the excess of estrogens in our environment. Next up, we've got some wonderful local organic pears. They're going in. We could put the whole thing in with the stalks and all. I'm not going to be quite that lazy. Next up, since we have it, don't always have to put it in. I love coconut, happens to be one of my favorite foods. Definitely not local. Adding in, of course, all the wonderful electrolytes that are in there. Next up, we're going to put a little bit in of biodynamic Demeter quality corn. It's not something we generally eat much of because it tends to be very hybridized, but having biodynamic corn, wonderful. And again, another hormone, testosterone boosting food. And we're gonna put some bananas, freshly peeled last night by ice day and then frozen. Still not completely frozen. So we'll stick 2 in there. So next up we've got some wonderful maca, one of the best hormone health boosting foods there is. So maybe we'll put a good couple of tablespoons. So next up, since it's a green smoothie, we're going to max out the green smoothiness. I'm going to put some spirulina in. And I'll put some barley grass powder in. Quite often I'll mix it up. I'll put moringa one day, or chlorella another day. Okay, we are nearing capacity. Next up, it's up to you, depending on how deep is your knowledge of the ecosystem and the bees. We are a huge supporter of bees and conscious business. This is a wonderful brand, Miel de Pyrenees. This is an oak honey they do. All their honeys are made by conscious beekeepers. Of course, beekeepers, the longest lived by vocation people in the world. So the honey just drip off in there. And by supporting these beekeepers, we're supporting bees thriving compared to all the low quality swag honey in the marketplace which destroys bees. Then next up, we have some wonderful organic, non-pasteurized, live, fresh, non-genetically manipulated hemp, rice and soy miso, just to throw a bit of extra friendly probiotics in there. And there we're going to put 1 tablespoon of fresh, organic, cold pressed coconut oil in there as well. Fill it in the jar. I'm just going to make about 3 of these jars. These jars are about 750 ml each. Typically Ice Day and I'll have 1 each for breakfast, and I'll take the second one and have it as my lunch. Cheers!
Cheers! You passed the iced tea test.
That's not easy.
It's good. It's delicious.